just hear a chat? You can hear me all right? Yeah? Okay. So,
Mel, you keep breaking up a little bit.
I don't know if there's much I can do about that because it's my internet, but we'll carry on and hopefully you'll be okay. So today I'm going to do a little demonstration about Easter biscuits, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of time to get your pinnies on, anybody that's going to cook along with me, and let you know a little few Easter food traditions. So Easter eggs and hot cross buns and simnel cake are the three main ones that you think about for Easter. Easter is mostly associated with Christians, so there's an awful lot of thought goes into the foods that we eat at Easter. But some of the traditions actually date back to pagan times, with boiled eggs actually being a fertility symbol, would you believe? And eggs supposedly looking like the tomb that locked Jesus in. Tradition has also evolved to include decorating eggs, and I remember when my mum and grandma sat round with my sisters, and we used to blow the eggs. So you make a tiny little pinprick in the end of both and blow through it, and it absolutely killed your ears, but was supposed to be good for your lungs. And then we set about decorating those for the Easter table. Chocolate eggs. They were first brought about by the Cadbury brothers in the 1870s, and the first Easter eggs were covered in marzipan flowers and filled with sugared almonds. So really old-fashioned things there. And then the humble hot cross bun, you actually have a cross on there, which is made with a simple flour and water paste, but the hot cross bun is cooked on Good Friday, and there's a really lovely saying that if you split one of these with a friend and you say these words, then the friendship can only strengthen. And the words are, half for you and half for me, between us two goodwill shall be. So that's a few little tips about Easter and how some of the foods, and I've got some more, but we'll get cooking now. So just so that you know, those hot cross buns were made in the Thermomix last night, freshly for the demo, so that you can see what might be on my Easter table for this year. So today's baking is Easter biscuits. Now, this is not a recipe of mine. It's one of my favourite ones from Mary Berry. You can download it from the Good Food website. I'm not taking any responsibility for it, but it is a favourite and the taste is absolutely delicious. So I don't know if you've already prepped your stuff, but my glamorous assistant is just going to angle things down so you can see what I'm going to do. Just tip it. That's it. Use the, that's it. Now, can you see the bowls? Okay. So we're going to first of all take 200 grams of really, really soft butter. This is ever so important because you won't be able to combine it if you don't have it really soft. So this has been out of the fridge for probably 24 hours, but certainly since last night. There's 150 grams of caster sugar going in there, and you're going to mix that in and really cream it together. It's ages since I did something by hand. The Thermomix has really changed the way that I bake and cook, but it's nice to get your hands in and bake as we used to do. One of the little stories that I always tell is in my domestic science class, and yes, I really am that old. Our domestic science teacher, she was a real stickler, and she'd have you mixing and mixing until it was absolutely fluffy as anything. Well, I'm not going to do that today, because as long as it's nice and creamy, and I think you can see that that is all mixed in there, we're good to go. So next, we're going to add in 2 egg yolks. These are from my girls who are not liking the weather out there at the moment. and they're a little bit flighty, but 2 large egg yolks. That's not going to come out of there. Okay, mix those in. Don't worry at all if it starts to curdle. If you do get curdling, you can just add a tablespoonful of your flour and that will stop the curdle. Actually, this hasn't curdled at all. So we've got that in. And then next, we're going to add in 400 grams of plain flour. It's going to take a little bit longer to mix in than the creaming took, but we'll get that all brought together. And we're going to perhaps need a few tablespoons full of milk, which is something I forgot to get out of the fridge, which is really useful. So I'll just go and get that now. Just get. That's the best laid plans for you, isn't it? So, taking one of my trusty sets of tools, these are just measuring spoons, but they are actually, I'm just trying to think how old they are. They are probably 45 years old, from my grandma, who thought plastic was the best thing since sliced bread. But my grandma was a great baker and she had a fantastic job. She was head cook at Rolls-Royce in Derby and cooked with a massive team of people until she passed on to Balfour Beatty, who took over some of Rolls-Royce's factory. So she was a really good baker. And she just absolutely loved everything to do with cooking and baking. So the recipe says 2 to 4 tablespoons. I would suggest you probably need all of that. And don't forget to put your spices in at this point. Well, the smell of those spices is absolutely yummy. It just reminds you of Christmas, actually. And I suppose these spices are things that we use all the time. The same spices with the addition of cloves went into the hot cross buns. So another tablespoonful. It's a bit like pastry, really. You don't want to add too much liquid. You do want to bring it all together, but you don't want it too dry either. And the size of the eggs does make a big difference. Hope everyone's getting on all right that's baking along. So I think we're just about there. So it looks quite crumbly, but we're going to bring it back together using our hands now. Always best to get your fingers in there, isn't it? So just clean off the spatula and get our hands in there. Just working it together. It's quite a soft dough. Yep, we're nearly there. Once we've got it together, we're going to take it out onto the board and we're going to split it into 2. The first half we're going to turn into the Easter biscuits, which have the recipe says currants, but mine are a mixture of currants and raisins. Raisins I think are better, but they don't look as nice. But currants to me are sometimes like little bullets. So choose what you like. It won't make any difference to the recipe at all. So there's the biscuit dough, brought it all together. You can see it makes quite a lot. So if you did want to bake with the children, you could probably do half the recipe. It wouldn't matter at all. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a knead on the board. and we could just take half of that. So I'm going to pop half back in the bowl for now, and I'm going to knead in quite a lot actually of currants and raisins. And give it a good old knead. If you feel it's getting too sticky because your hands are warm, you can always put a bit of flour on the mat, but you don't really want to be using too much flour because that in turn will make the dough quite tough, and you want lovely yummy biscuits. So bringing it all together here, I actually think we're nearly there with fruit. I'm not sure we really need the rest of it. Okay. So a little bit of flour on your board. Again, don't go mad with it. I've got an acrylic rolling pin. I'll have shown you this when I'm doing fondant icing, but this rolling pin is 20 inches and it will do as big a pie as you want to do, and also it will roll out enough fondant icing to do a 12-inch cake. The other thing that I haven't shown you are these. So these are spacers. I got mine from Vanilla Valley, but they actually make sure that your dough is all rolled to the right thickness so that when you put them in the oven, they are very much evenly cooked. So you can see I'm not having to put any more flour on the top, just making sure that it's all moving underneath. And then taking a cutter, I've just got a really old set of fluted cutters just to cut out a lot. Now,
what thickness should we roll it to?
Well, I would have said about half a centimetre.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the dough that I make my biscuits with is always chilled. And I would suggest if you're doing shapes, then you do that as a matter of course. Chill all your dough, because it means they don't spread quite so much in the oven. Because I've chosen to use raisins, there's quite a lot of big ones in there, so I'm having to just pull those outside, but it won't matter at all. So as you can see, it makes a lot of biscuits, does this batch of dough. So I'm just going to cut out a dozen and then we'll leave the rest until later. Right, so one more. Okay. Tidy these up so that I look like a professional. I can know what I'm doing. Okay, so gather the rest of it up and just keep cutting, or as I say, I am going to pop that to one side and make some later on. So that is the tray of biscuits. Mary says sprinkle those with caster sugar before they go into the oven, and then again sprinkle with caster sugar when they come out. I never sprinkle before, but that's entirely up to you. So I always sprinkle with caster sugar when they come out of the oven. So that is the first batch that's done. The second half, that's plain, that's for your shaped biscuits. So I've got some lovely Easter shapes here. And if you don't have Easter shapes, it doesn't matter at all. Use a plain round scone cutter and just shape them slightly into eggs and you'll be absolutely fine. Just move my spacer. Get rid of all of your excess. Smells absolutely delicious. Okay, so this is a cutter that I had made specially for Easter. So I designed it, and a lady called Jo, she's in Swindon. She will cut anybody out, whatever you want. She's a 3D printer, but she's really good for me. She sorts me out and she's very quick. So we've got an Easter chick. This is one that I just bought just for a couple of pounds, just a little chick. We're going to go with an Easter egg. So there's the Easter egg. And like I say, you could use a big round and just shape it if you wanted. I've got a smaller egg, and it's nice to have some different shapes. And these you're going to be decorating along the way. So here's a little chick. His feet usually a bit delicate, but the good thing about biscuit dough is you can push the biscuit back together again and it will bake itself together. And then I've got some tiny little eggs, which are really cute, just to finish off the tray. Because I can't see what anybody's doing, I don't know how you're getting on, but if you do have any questions, just shout up, because I can hear you if you come off mute. So I think that'll do us for now. And if you've got as many shaped ones as you want, you can mix the 2 batches of dough together and you can freeze it. So it freezes beautifully. I had got a piece out of the freezer this morning from the other day when I was doing a test bake. And actually it didn't defrost in time for me to have some in the oven ready for you. But what I do with my dough is I've got a set of these silicone bags. Just got them off Amazon. They're really brilliant for putting liquids or any sort of leftovers. And I just squish it out. They've got some seals, and you can actually expel all the air. You can use these for sous vide if you want to do anything like that. But the amount of plastic that it's saved my business has been absolutely amazing. And I've got, I think I've got a dozen of these now, and I make all of the dough and freeze it down. And that's what I would suggest if you're into biscuits. Biscuits are not a quick thing. You never put things straight into the oven.
I have a question. You know, when you take the scones out of the oven, you put the icing sugar when they're still hot, obviously. Yes.
Yes, when they're still hot, because the heat that's on the biscuit will actually just gently melt the sugar so that it sticks. So that's the way to do it. So I don't know how we're doing for time.
It's only ever brown sugar, isn't it?
Sorry, brown sugar.
What type of sugar is it?
It's caster sugar.
Okay, thank you.
It's still caster sugar.
Mel, what temperature?
So the oven needs to go on at 180 or 160 if it's a fan oven, or gas mark 4.
How long?
Right, you're going to keep an eye on them, but around about 10 minutes will be enough. 10 minutes or until they're pale golden brown.
Yeah. They look amazing, Debbie. Thank you. Yes, we just about survived. We made 1 batch. I don't have any Easter things. We tried to make some eggs, but I'd found some pumpkins and cats from Halloween. So
perfect.
Halloween.
That's perfect.
Mine are all round, I'm afraid.
It doesn't matter at all. So, as I say, I haven't got any to show you because the other dough didn't defrost. But what I have got to show you is my Easter table. So I'm just going to come round and see if I can actually see the whole Easter table there.
Wow, that looks amazing.
Hang on, let's do. Bear with me a minute and then I can. Okay, so from this way on, I can show you the Easter biscuits. Where is the, right? Yeah, so the Easter biscuits, when they came out of the oven, they were coated in a sprinkling of caster sugar. Okay, and then that sets on there. These are really crispy, so they really are lovely. So that is the Easter biscuits. The hot cross buns I made in the Thermomix last night because they are a favourite for me. And then here are some biscuits that I've iced. So I'll just bring one forward. So this is the Easter chick. And the icing that is actually on the recipe from Mary Berry is not the same recipe that I would normally use for my icing. So she is only using icing sugar and water, whereas I feel that doesn't set sufficiently hard. So the options are to use the 2 egg whites that you had left. So here are the egg whites that you had left. You could use those with icing sugar and lemon juice, and that would make a proper royal icing. Now, there was a warning that you shouldn't use raw eggs if you were pregnant. Now, that is a long time ago, and all branded eggs now are at no risk or low risk of salmonella. So there's no real problem with that. As a baker and with a 5-star hygiene, I am not allowed to use raw eggs, although I would prefer to do that because I always think the icing is much nicer. What I use is a product called Merry White. So Merry as in meringue. So this is really just an egg substitute. It's quite cheap, and it means that you don't have to have, you don't have to have fresh eggs if you don't want to. There's 100 grams in this tub for, I think, between £2.50 and £3, and it goes such a long way. The only thing with Merry White is that they add wheat flour into it to stabilize it, which stopped me from doing gluten-free recipes completely. But other than that, then that's good. You can also use Merry White to make meringues if that's what you want. And the only difference between a royal icing and a meringue is the type of sugar that you use. So with royal icing, you would always sieve it through, and you would put icing sugar in there, and with a meringue, it's caster sugar. So as I say, I'm not sure where we are at with time. I knew I wasn't going to get to do icing with it, but what I'm going to do, I am going to ice these biscuits and do a video and pop it on my YouTube channel. So then I'll send that out, or get Amanda to send that out to anybody that wants it, so that you can actually ice the biscuits that you've made.
Oh, thank you. You know, we are doing okay for time. We've got about maybe 7 or 8 minutes. So if you did want to show us, it's totally up to you.
No, that's fine. If we've got that much time, just let me go and get my icing bags. I did prepare them earlier.
No worries. What
just
we'll
pop
do,
and get them, and I'll give you a demo.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Mel. What we'll do in the meantime, I've just seen that Amy's arrived. So welcome, Amy. Would you like to do your 40 seconds?
If you want me to, I'm not prepared. I thought it was at 12 o'clock. I don't know why. Oh,
bless you. No, we're at a funny time, aren't we?
My email said 12, so of course I read it.
Oh.
But I didn't open it. It's just my own fault. I should have opened the email, shouldn't I?
Yeah, no, apologies. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay. It's no problem. Well, anyway, I'm Amy. I'm from Wales. I'm an Summers ambassador. My aim is to make you look and feel good, whether it's with lingerie or some brand new pyjamas or loungewear. Everything you purchase from me is completely confidential, whether that's pyjamas or something more erotic. We also have very discreet delivery. And if any of that sounds like your cup of tea, then my details will be in the chat.
That's in your kitchen. You don't need to have special tools. So if I just move these. So these are some of the Easter shapes that I baked on the last batch. And I want to try and get it so that you can see. I've made some piping bags and filled them with the right consistency of icing. Now the icing, it's tricky to gauge whether it's too stiff or too runny. And I'll go through that on the YouTube video. But these I've already mixed these up. I mixed a pink and a white, just so that we could do it. So if I try and find the right, okay. So just literally squeezing out roughly where you want the colour. If it's the right consistency, it will start to spread into the right area itself. But using a cocktail stick, or I've just got a bamboo stick that I'd use for a kebab or something like that out of the drawer, just tease it around. You can see with royal icing that the air bubbles start to come to the surface. In fact, any foreign body that you happen to get in there, especially if you're baking with children, you will see that rise to the surface, so you can lift it out with your cocktail stick. So that's the pink for the ears. It's absolutely hammering it down here, so I hope that you can still hear me all right. And then go round almost to the edge, just roughly, squeezing very gently. The more you squeeze, the more comes out. I've only got a tiny hole in the end of this piping bag.
Mel, is that just baking paper you're using?
Yes.
To make the, oh, I never even thought of doing that.
Yeah, I've got a demo on my YouTube channel that shows you how to make those pastry bags. And again, you just, my favourite is Tesco's baking parchment. It's just the best. And I can be piping for a couple of hours and it doesn't go all soggy and, you know, and disintegrate. So just tease it out to the edges, going round the ear. Not so easy to zoom in on a Zoom. And the same.
See, it's perfect, Mel, don't worry.
You won't believe the angle that I'm doing this at, underneath an iPad.
You're amazing.
Right. So what I would do now, I would actually let that dry, and then I would pipe the top knot of the lamb, because otherwise it's going to be all flat. But if you wanted to do it flat, then you could add some decoration on later. But I would probably do 3 little circles of icing, letting them just crust over very gently in between. So I'm going to leave that lamb to one side. And the next thing that I can do is an egg. And an egg I would start in the middle and just really squeezing round. Doesn't matter how perfect you are, it's the finishing that makes the difference. So not to the edge, because this is going to spread, don't forget, but the consistency means it's not going to spread over the edges. So taking your cocktail stick or your spike or whatever it is that you're using, tease the icing out to the edge. And it's moving all the time. They do say that there's a certain number of seconds for royal icing where you get a flatness. So if you want it really stiff, then you would hope that it wouldn't flatten out for at least 20 seconds. But royal icing that you want to be quite thin, I would expect to be around about, oh, that's white, don't do that. I would expect to be about 8 to 10 seconds before it flattens out. And the good thing about using 2 colours, and I'm going to try this and hope that it works, but something that you could do that works really well is put some lines. So this is called wet on wet. So pop some lines across your Easter egg. And then using your stick, drag that down and the other way. And just at the edges.
Mel, that is absolutely amazing. What a brilliant effect. We're just about coming to time, my darling. So is it?
No, that's absolutely fine.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for watching.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. People, take yourself off mute and give her a good old clap. Mel, thank you.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yay.
My biscuits are out, Mel.
Fabulous.
Yay. I haven't dared put mine in because I thought I'm going to get called away and I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to do it in the one-to-ones.
I'm going to have one right now.
If you
Oh,
have,
they look great.
I'm going to be dapping to the oven and back. Apologies. Right. Let's save